Welcome to the Prescott Lab Podcast, not just theory, practical science for everyone. I'm Dr. Jonathan Prescott, a physician and integrative medicine researcher at the Ravenshade Institute for Human Health. And tonight, I want to speak directly to the men out there, especially those over 60, the ones quietly asking questions that no one ever taught them how to ask. Maybe you've been wondering if that discomfort, that pressure, that 3 a.m. bathroom routine is just part of getting older. Maybe you've been carrying around quiet guilt for something that's been part of your life since you were a teenager, never spoken out loud, just assumed to be wrong. Or maybe you're just trying to feel like yourself again, steady, strong, and in control of your own body. If that's you, then you're in the right place. Because today, we're pulling back the curtain on one of the most misunderstood parts of the male body, the prostate, and the surprising truth about how your most private habits might actually be helping you, not harming you. Now, before we go any deeper, if this topic already speaks to something you've felt, even if you've never said it out loud, do me a small favor. Tap that like button, not just for the algorithm, for the community. Because every single like tells me this matters to you. And that's what gives us the fuel to keep going, to bring you more videos like this, rooted in science, made with heart. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that now too, and hit the bell so you don't miss any of our future talks on real men's health. Now then, to understand what really happens when you masturbate at 60, 70, or even 80, we first have to understand the part of your body that no one ever explained to you. The engine behind your drive, your pleasure, your control. Let's start there. Let's talk about your prostate. One, understanding your prostate, the overlooked engine. Let me tell you something no one ever said clearly when you turned 40 or 50 or 60. Your prostate is not some optional organ, some silent bystander in your body. It's not just that thing older men complain about when they can't pee right. No, the prostate is an engine, small, hidden, but powerful. And if you're over 60, it's probably been trying to talk to you for a while now. Here's what most men don't know. Your prostate is about the size of a walnut, but don't let that fool you. It sits just beneath your bladder, wrapped snugly around your urethra, the tube that carries urine out of your body. That's prime real estate, and it means any swelling, any irritation, any change in that gland is going to affect how you live, sleep, and feel. Its main job, producing the fluid that carries and protects your sperm. That's right, without the prostate, there is no semen, no forward movement, no protection. It's the unsung hero of male fertility. But the real story begins when you realize how intimately connected this little gland is to your daily quality of life. That sudden urgency to pee, that weak stream you try to ignore, that uncomfortable feeling of not quite emptying, that odd pressure after sex. All of that is your prostate talking. And the older you get, the louder it gets. I remember something my own father said halfway through his 60s, half joking but fully serious. Did anyone give you the prostate instruction manual? Because I must have missed mine. We both laughed, but deep down we knew most men never get one. No guide, no warnings, just aging, quiet confusion, and a drawer full of Google searches at 3 in the morning. So here's your guide right now, right here. Your prostate isn't just a gland, it's a living, reactive organ tuned into your hormones, especially testosterone and its more potent brother, DHT. As you age, your body doesn't just lose testosterone. It starts reacting to it differently, and your prostate, it gets the message loud and clear. That message says, grow. And it does, not overnight. But slowly, steadily, it starts to enlarge, pushing inward, tightening its grip around your urethra, and making your life just a little more uncomfortable each year. And you're left wondering, did I do something to cause this? Was it my diet, my lifestyle, my habits? Which brings us to the question at the center of this entire podcast, something almost every man thinks about but never says out loud. Could masturbation be making it worse? Or somehow, could it be helping? That's what we're going to unpack in the next section. Because once you understand how this engine works, it's time to look at what happens when you start revving it. 2. How aging affects the prostate. I've had men sit across from me, eyes full of frustration, asking the same question in a dozen different ways. Why now? They've lived decades without a hitch, strong streams, peaceful nights, zero complaints. Then one day, or more often one night, things change, waking up 2, 3, 4 times to pee, straining to empty the bladder. A subtle ache in the lower back, or a strange pressure that doesn't quite go away. And it feels like the body you knew has quietly turned into something unfamiliar. Let me be very clear, you didn't do anything wrong, you're not broken, this is biology. And it's the part no one talks about until it's already disrupting your life. See, your prostate doesn't just sit there like a stone. It responds to age, to hormones, and to time. The older you get, the more sensitive it becomes to DHT, a supercharged version of testosterone. Back in your 20s, DHT gave you drive, muscle, hair, edge. But after 50, that same hormone starts to fuel unwanted growth in the prostate. Not cancer, not deadly, but definitely disruptive. It's called BPH, benign prostatic hyperplasia, and by age 60, nearly half of all men have it. By 85, it's closer to 90%. So what does BPH do? Imagine stepping on a garden hose while watering your lawn. That pressure. Irregular flow, that backup, that's your urethra when the prostate swells. You might feel like you've just peed, but your bladder says otherwise. You go again and again and again, but BPH isn't the only player here. Some men develop prostatitis, inflammation of the prostate, sometimes triggered by infection, often not. It brings with it a cocktail of symptoms: burning, pressure, pain during or after ejaculation, and perhaps the most frustrating of all, the constant discomfort you can't quite describe to anyone. And finally, there's the elephant in the room: prostate cancer. The second most common cancer in men, often quiet, often undetected, until one day it's not. Now let me pause here. I'm not telling you this to scare you. I'm telling you this so you're no longer surprised by what your body's doing. Because once you know what's happening inside you, you can stop blaming yourself outside. You didn't bring this on with your diet, or your habits, or your desires. But here's the twist. There's something most men do, have always done, that may actually help manage all three of these issues. Yes, really, it's personal, it's natural, and it's far more powerful than most doctors will ever say out loud. So, let's stop dancing around it. Let's talk directly about what happens to your prostate when you ejaculate, because that's where the truth and the hope really begin. 3. Ejaculation and the hidden flush cycle. I'll never forget the way he asked it. He was 67, widowed, lived alone in a quiet suburb of Michigan. After a long pause in our conversation, the kind of pause that holds more weight than words, he leaned forward and asked, "Doc, I still take care of myself a few times a week just to feel normal. Am I hurting my prostate by doing that?" There was no smirk, no shame, just real uncertainty. He wanted the truth, not a lecture, not a joke, not a vague shrug from the internet. And here's what I told him: ejaculation isn't just a release, it's a biological rinse cycle. Yes, you read that right. When you climax, whether through intimacy or on your own, your prostate contracts. Rhythmic, purposeful contractions. And in that moment, it pushes out the fluid it's been carefully storing. Fluid packed with enzymes, proteins, minerals, all crucial for protecting sperm. But here's the part most men never learn: that same fluid, if left sitting too long, can build up, thicken, and stagnate. And like anything stagnant in the body, it can start to cause problems. Mild discomfort, pressure, a dull, nagging ache that never fully goes away, and over time, chronic inflammation. So what does ejaculation really do? It clears the system. It reduces congestion. It keeps the gland moving, active, healthy, instead of becoming a sluggish reservoir of leftover biochemistry. It's not about pleasure alone, it's maintenance. Like flushing your pipes, rotating your tires, or oiling the gears in an old machine. And in this stage of life, when your prostate is more reactive, more sensitive, and more prone to swelling, that maintenance matters more than ever. Some men, after going long stretches without release, tell me they feel heavy down there. Not emotionally, physically. A fullness they can't explain. And for many, regular ejaculation lightens that weight literally. Now, does that mean more is better? Not necessarily. This isn't about chasing numbers or proving anything. It's about rhythm, understanding how your body speaks, and learning that something so private might just be quietly protecting you all along. Still, one question kept lingering in my mind, and in many of yours, I suspect: if this flush cycle is real, then surely someone must have studied it, measured it, proved it. And as it turns out, someone did, and what they found, well, it was enough to make even the most skeptical doctor sit up straight. 4. The shocking truth from Harvard. Some truths hit you like a whisper, others hit like a freight train, and when the results of a decades-long study from Harvard landed on my desk, I sat back in my chair and thought, so that's it, that's what they needed to hear. See, for years, men like you, men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, have carried around a quiet burden. They wondered if their most private habit was harming them. Was it draining their energy, messing with their hormones, worsening their prostate? They asked in hushed voices or not at all, and far too often they got vague answers or worse, shame. But this Harvard study, it didn't care about shame, it looked at numbers. At real men living real lives over 18 years. 925 participants to be exact. And here's what the researchers asked. Is there a connection between how often a man ejaculates and his risk of developing prostate cancer? The answer, yes, and not just a slight maybe. Not just a trend, a statistically significant head-turning, myth-busting result. Men who ejaculated 21 or more times per month through sex or masturbation had a 31% lower risk of developing prostate cancer than men who only ejaculated 4 to 7 times monthly. Let that sink in. 31%, that's not wishful thinking. That's the kind of number that grabs every urologist's attention, not from pills, not from surgery, just from letting the body do what it was designed to do. And it didn't matter how they did it, whether they had a partner or went solo. The benefit came from the act itself, from the flush, the cycle, the regular release that kept things flowing. Now, does this mean ejaculation is a magical shield against cancer? No. Let's be clear, there are many factors at play: genetics, diet, lifestyle, environment. But it does mean that ejaculation isn't the villain so many feared. It might just be part of the solution. One of my patients, a soft-spoken man in his early 70s, teared up when I told him about the study. So he asked, I wasn't hurting myself all those years. And I said what I'll say to you now: you weren't hurting yourself. You might have been helping your body all along. But even with that powerful data in hand, another question remained, one I hear whispered in locker rooms, across exam tables, and in the quiet moments of self-doubt. Why? Why would ejaculation lower cancer risk? What's really happening inside the prostate to make this possible? And that, my friend, is where things get even more fascinating. 5. The flush-out theory, how it really works. When I first read the Harvard results, I had the same reaction many of my patients did. That's great, but why does it work? Science is one thing, but as a physician, I want the mechanism. I want the why, because when we understand that, we gain control, and the most compelling explanation we have so far is what we call the flush-out theory. Let me break it down for you plain and simple. Your prostate is a gland. And like any gland, its job is to produce fluid. That fluid doesn't vanish into thin air, it accumulates, it waits for release. Now imagine that fluid sitting there, not for hours, not for days, but for weeks, maybe months. What's in that fluid? Enzymes, proteins, zinc, seminal components, but also waste products, hormonal metabolites, even tiny crystals and calcifications. Left stagnant. That buildup starts acting like standing water in an old pipe. It thickens, it irritates. And over time, it may begin to trigger inflammation inside the prostate walls, the kind of chronic, low-grade inflammation that silently sets the stage for bigger issues. Now picture what happens when you flush that fluid regularly. You're not just clearing physical buildup, you're reducing chemical irritation. You're helping the gland detox itself naturally. No pills, no procedures. Just biology doing its job, and there's more. That rhythmic contraction of the prostate during ejaculation, it stimulates blood flow, it improves oxygenation of the tissue. It promotes cellular turnover, helping older, potentially damaged cells get replaced with newer, healthier ones. Think of it like taking your car out for a drive after it's been sitting in the garage too long. You're not pushing it to the limit, you're just keeping the engine active, preventing rust, keeping the system engaged. And yes, the benefits go beyond the physical, because regular release also calms your nervous system. It reduces cortisol. It can help regulate your sleep cycle. It lifts your mood. And all of that, the lower stress, the better rest, the clearer head, contributes to lower systemic inflammation, which supports the prostate even further. So no, ejaculation isn't a miracle drug, but it is a natural maintenance system, built into your body, easy to access and completely free. Still, if you're like most of the men I work with, I bet you're not just thinking about cancer. You're thinking about the bathroom trips, the weak flow, the way your bladder feels like it's never quite empty, the frustrating moments when something that once worked effortlessly now feels unpredictable. And it's time we address that too, because while we've talked about prevention, many of you are living with what's already here. 6. Can ejaculation ease nighttime urination? He sat in my office, arms crossed, jaw tight, as if embarrassed to say it out loud. Doc, he muttered, I just want to sleep through the night without getting up 3 damn times to pee. That too much to ask? No, it's not, and no, you're not alone. For men with BPH, benign prostatic hyperplasia, that enlarged prostate squeezes the urethra like a kinked garden hose. The stream gets weak. The bladder doesn't empty fully. And suddenly, the bathroom becomes your nightly visitor. It's not just inconvenient, it's exhausting. It breaks your sleep, drains your energy, and chips away at your confidence in ways you rarely say out loud. So now the big question, can ejaculation actually help relieve these symptoms? Here's the honest answer, not a cure. But yes, sometimes it can help. Let me explain. The prostate doesn't just grow in size, it also swells with fluid, especially in men who aren't ejaculating regularly. That internal congestion adds pressure. Imagine a sponge soaked to the brim, heavy, bloated, pressing against everything around it. Now picture what happens when you squeeze that sponge. You release that built-up fluid, and in many cases, even if just temporarily, that pressure lightens. Some men report that after ejaculation, their urinary flow improves even if just for a few hours. The sense of fullness eases. The urgency dials down, and they finally get a night of uninterrupted sleep. It's not universal, it's not guaranteed, but it's real, and I've seen it in enough patients to take it seriously. But let me be clear, this isn't about more is better. It's not about frequency for the sake of it. It's about rhythm, finding a balance that supports your body, not drains it. If you're experiencing burning, blood, or complete retention, don't rely on masturbation. You need a urologist, plain and simple. But for those with mild to moderate BPH, incorporating regular, comfortable ejaculation, whether partnered or solo, may become a part of your broader strategy for managing symptoms naturally. And that brings us to a condition that's often even more misunderstood than BPH. When the prostate isn't just big, it's inflamed and painful. That's a different beast entirely. And the way ejaculation affects that situation, well, it might surprise you. 7. Chronic prostatitis, help or harm. Mark was 64, tough guy, retired firefighter, walked in like nothing could faze him until he started talking. I've seen a lot of pain in my life, he said, but this is different, it's invisible, and it's driving me crazy. What he was describing wasn't cancer, it wasn't BPH, it was something more insidious, chronic prostatitis, a dull ache in the pelvis, sharp pain during or after ejaculation, burning when urinating, a lingering sense of pressure that never fully lets go, and worst of all, no clear answers. He'd seen 3 different doctors, gotten 3 different explanations, tried antibiotics, painkillers, pelvic floor stretches, nothing stuck. And finally, with a mix of shame and hope, he asked, "Doc, could I be making it worse by, taking care of myself?" It's a question I hear more than you'd imagine. Because prostatitis, especially the non-bacterial kind, often shows up in men who are otherwise healthy, active, and confused by what their body's suddenly doing. Here's the truth. For chronic prostatitis that isn't caused by infection, masturbation can actually help. Yes, really, let's go back to the flush-out idea. When fluid stagnates inside the prostate, it can aggravate the tissues, triggering inflammation. Think of it like stale water sitting in the pipes. It starts to rot the inside. Regular ejaculation helps keep things moving. It reduces pressure buildup, it clears chemical irritants, it allows the gland to breathe again. Now, is this true for every man? Not quite. Some guys do feel worse during a flare-up. The contractions may cause temporary irritation. In those cases, rest is wiser. But for many, I'd say most, finding a gentle, consistent rhythm of ejaculation actually reduces flare frequency and eases baseline symptoms over time. In fact, many of us urologists recommend regular ejaculation as part of a holistic approach to managing chronic prostatitis. Not abstinence, not suppression, flow, movement, release. But here's the catch, and it's a big one: most men never hear that advice. Why? Because they're still carrying around a much heavier weight than inflammation. They're carrying shame, deep-seated myths, childhood warnings, religious guilt, the kind of quiet baggage that no medication can fix. And if we don't deal with that, no amount of science will help. So before we move into strategies, lifestyle tips, or what to do next, we have to do something bold. We have to unlearn the lies. Because what's been hurting men most isn't always biological. Sometimes it's cultural, it's invisible, and it's long overdue for a reckoning. 8. Breaking the myths you were taught as a boy. I've had grown men, stoic, silver-haired, accomplished, look me dead in the eye and whisper like they were confessing a crime. "Doc, did I wear myself out? Or worse, did I waste all my energy on that and now I'm paying the price?" And every single time, I pause, take a breath, and say with clarity, those are lies, and it's time to set them down. Let's go through them one by one. Myth number 1, you'll run out. This is the most common myth and maybe the most ridiculous. As if your body has some set amount of sperm or semen stored up in a vault, and once it's gone, you're done. That's not how biology works. Your seminal fluid is constantly replenished, like blood, like saliva, like any other vital fluid. You ejaculate, your body produces more. It's not a finite supply, it's a living, dynamic system. The engine was built to keep running, not sputter out because you used it. Myth number 2, masturbation weakens you. Ah yes, the old "it drains your manhood" myth. This one hits deep. You feel tired after. Must be because it's stealing your strength, right? No. Ejaculation triggers a natural parasympathetic nervous response. It calms your system. The tiredness you feel isn't weakness. It's your body relaxing, releasing oxytocin, dopamine, prolactin, the same chemicals that help you sleep, reduce stress, and stabilize mood. In other words, it helps you reset. And the more you suppress that, the more tension you carry emotionally and physically. Myth number 3, it's shameful, immature, wrong. This one's the heaviest. It doesn't come from science, it comes from silence, from the church pew, the locker room, the awkward parental glance. You learn to feel guilt about something your body was naturally doing. But here's the truth, my friend. Masturbation is not a failure. It's not a sin, and it's not a flaw. It's a biological function as valid as sneezing or stretching or breathing deep after a long day. And after 60, it's not about lust or indulgence. It's about comfort, regulation, relief, connection. It can be part of your wellness, your rhythm, your peace. Some of the most grounded, disciplined, health-conscious men I've treated masturbate regularly and without shame. Not because they're stuck in their past, but because they are finally listening to their present. So if you've been holding these myths close like heavy stones in your pocket, I want to invite you to drop them now. Not recklessly, not rebelliously, but deliberately, with science, with maturity, with ownership. Because the next step isn't about what you did before. It's about what you can choose now, clearly, calmly, confidently. So let's talk about that. Let's get practical. 9. A simple plan you can start today. By now you've heard the science, you've unlearned the shame, you've seen what your prostate is really doing and what regular ejaculation might actually be doing for it. So the next question is always the same. Okay, doc, what do I do with this? Here's your answer, clear, direct, practical. Step 1, give yourself permission. This isn't about rebellion, it's about respect. Respect for your body, for your instincts, for the quiet voice inside you that just wants peace. So many men carry guilt over something that's natural, needed, and as we now know, potentially protective. So today, let that go. You are allowed to feel, to release, to function, not for anyone else, for you. Step 2, find your rhythm, not your record. Let's revisit the Harvard numbers. Men who ejaculated 21 plus times per month had lower cancer risk. That's about 5 times a week. But this isn't a scoreboard. This isn't a race. Some men feel great at 2-3 times a week. Others might need daily release to feel balanced. Some may go through phases of more or less depending on stress, energy, or health. What matters is consistency, not performance. Like exercise, like brushing your teeth, like any form of maintenance, regularity matters more than intensity. Step 3, build a foundation that supports your prostate beyond ejaculation. This is where we bring in the lifestyle factors that amplify the benefit. Eat anti-inflammatory foods, tomatoes, broccoli, spinach, pumpkin seeds, turmeric, green tea. Cut down on red meat, high-fat dairy, excess sugar, alcohol, smoking. Move your body. Even a 30-minute walk can improve circulation, balance hormones, and calm the nervous system. Stay hydrated. Dehydration thickens prostate fluid. That makes congestion worse. Mind your stress. Chronic stress equals chronic inflammation. Meditation, breathing, even short moments of stillness matter. You're not building a perfect body. You're creating a stable environment for your prostate to function and flush the way it was designed to. Step 4, pay attention and respond early. If ejaculation relieves pressure, great. If it causes pain, burning, or post-release fatigue, that's not weakness, that's a signal. Your body's speaking. Don't ignore it. See a urologist. Ask questions. Don't wait for things to get unbearable. There is no bravery in silence, only suffering, and you deserve better than that. Step 5, drop the script, write your own. No 2 men age the same. No 2 prostates respond the same. There's no single correct path, just your path. Your goal isn't perfection, it's progress. Your win isn't silence, it's sovereignty. Your power lies not in ignoring your body, but in partnering with it. Because when you start to see self-care not as a backup plan, but as your primary strength, that's when everything begins to shift. And now maybe you're wondering, what does this look like in real life, not in studies, not in clinics, but in a conversation, a moment, a man who's walked through it and come out the other side? Well, I've got just the story for you. 10. What John taught me about healing. His name was John, 73 years old, a retired steelworker from Pittsburgh, big hands, calloused fingers, the kind of man who'd rather fix something himself than ask for help. But that day he didn't come in to fix anything. He came in to ask one question, and it came out quieter than I expected from a man like him. "Doc, did I do this to myself?" He meant the pressure, the discomfort, the 2 a.m. bathroom trips, the nagging feeling something inside him had changed, and maybe it was his fault. He leaned in, cleared his throat, and added, "All those years of, nobody ever told me if it was safe. What if I messed myself up and didn't know it?" He wasn't asking about medicine. He was asking for permission to forgive himself, so I walked him through everything we've covered here. The role of the prostate, the natural flush cycle of ejaculation, the Harvard study, the flush-out theory, the myths, every single one of them, and what the science actually says today. When I finished, he sat still for a moment. Then he looked me in the eye, nodded slowly, and said, "So I wasn't breaking myself." "No," I told him, "you were maintaining yourself even if nobody ever told you so." And right then I watched it happen. His shoulders dropped. The tightness in his face softened. He exhaled a breath that looked like it had been stuck in his chest for decades. That's when I realized something important. Knowledge doesn't just inform, it heals. Especially when it clears away guilt that was never yours to carry. John didn't walk out of that office with a miracle cure, but he walked out lighter, and more than that, he walked out free from shame, free from false stories, free from the silence that had haunted him longer than any symptom. And that, my friend, is the whole point of this conversation, this podcast, this work. It's not just about prostates and hormones and risk percentages. It's about reclaiming your right to understand your body without fear, because when you know the truth, you stop blaming yourself, you start listening, and from there, true healing begins. Now we've covered a lot, but before we close, there's one last thing I need to tell you. One final thought, not from textbooks, not from charts, but from my own heart to yours. 11. The final word: you're not broken. If there's one thing I've learned after over 30 years of sitting across from men, it's this. Most of us don't say what we're truly worried about. We deflect, we joke, we minimize. But deep down, in the quiet hours of the night, we wonder, is this normal? Is my body falling apart? Did I do this to myself? Am I broken? Let me say this plainly from one man to another: no, you are not. You're aging, yes. You're changing, of course. But broken? Never. Your prostate didn't betray you. Your habits didn't ruin you. You didn't miss a magical memo on manhood. You've simply never been told the full truth, and now you have it. You now know what the prostate actually is: not a mystery, but a powerful gland with real influence. How it changes with time through hormones, pressure, and wear. What regular ejaculation does: not something shameful, but something protective. That science backs this up through studies, through biology, through lived experience. That guilt has no place in your healing, and that you have the power right now to take steps toward relief, clarity, and even prevention. You don't need to apologize for caring about your body. You don't need to whisper when you ask questions. You don't need to carry shame for being a man with needs, functions, and feelings. This podcast, this space exists so you don't have to walk that road alone anymore. So let me say this: you're not behind, you're not weak, you're not broken, you're aware, you're curious, and most importantly, you're still in the game. That means everything. Now, if this episode helped you breathe easier, helped you understand your body, or just made you feel a little less alone, do me one small favor: hit that like button. Not just for me, but for every man out there who's still searching for these answers in silence. Each like, each comment, each share, it helps us reach more men who need to hear what you just heard. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. I'm not going anywhere, and neither is the truth. Together, we're building a space where men talk, learn, and heal without fear. Drop a comment below. Let me know what resonated with you. What questions still linger? What else would you like me to unpack in the next episode? Until next time, stay curious, stay kind to yourself, and remember, the most powerful man in the room isn't the loudest. It's the one who knows his body and respects it. Blessings on your journey. See you in the next episode.